Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to talk about carbon zero building with hemp building materials. Very exciting since the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp is now legal to be grown in the United States, and we are going to talk about some of the building material uses for industrial hemp, not the cannabinoid kind. So my name is Jean Lotus. I'm the moderator here, but I'm going to show you just a couple of things. One of the exciting things about using hemp for building materials is it has been used in Europe for almost 30 years. So we have a lot of exciting projects that have already been built that we can see how it can be used in the United States. So one of the hemp building materials is unfortunately called Hempcrete, even though it is not load bearing. It's an insulation material, but it is hemp and lime and water and a couple of magical herbs and spices. The reason that hemp is a good material for carbon sequestration is photosynthesis. In one growing season, it can grow up to 20 feet in about 90 days. So it really sequesters a lot of carbon while growing. So when you put that into a wall, that is a super sequestering material. Here is the inside and outside of a hemp stalk. The inside is what we use for hemplime material. This is the other. Everybody probably knows about this if they're interested in building materials and carbon, but what's called the upfront or embodied carbon of a structure is all of the carbon that was used to create the building materials. And you can see at the end, the operational carbon is the low energy retrofits and such that you can do while you're in the life of the building. But you can see the yellow line to get down 30 years, how much upfront carbon goes into a typical building. So if you reduce that upfront carbon at the beginning, the total amount of decarbonization is much higher. So now I'm just going to show you some hemp buildings. This building right here in the middle is an apartment building in France made with hemp blocks. Here is a Marks and Spencer department store. In Great Britain, there is the one in the middle is an Italian apartment building. The one on the other side is in Paris, France. It's a retrofit, so hemp and plaster on the outside. Here are a couple houses in Australia and Virginia Beach. Great house in Serbia with the goats, and this one is in California. The domes made by Hempire, we'll hear about some of those. This one is the most fabulous, I think. It's in Australia. This one is in Mexico. It's an ecotourism. And this is a Paris building. This is a model, but they built this last summer with blocks. And then the U.S. Department of Energy is starting to get interested in hemp building materials. And to finalize where we are, if you're interested in talking about this further, we're having an event on tonight, which is a fundraiser for Hempcrete Recover. So thank you so much. So I'm going to move this on to Ray Kaderi, New Braunfels, Texas. He is a hemp builder here from the Hemp Build Network.
Thanks, Jean. Just need to be on.
I think you need to click it up. There we go.
Okay. Alrighty, well thanks everyone for attending, and then my name's Ray Kaderi. We're based out of New Braunfels, Texas, just down the road from you, and what we're doing is we're building houses utilizing Hempcrete in San Antonio, Texas. Now, a little bit about me is that I'm not a career builder. My background is a real estate broker and investor, and when I started looking at building houses, I wanted to build to hold. And so something that would have a longevity of the use, as well as the efficiency of it were both things that interested me, because both of those were money in my pocket from an investor's approach to things. And that's one of the things you'll hear from us about anybody in the space, is what's their motivation. Now, we're all here looking about how to have the highest levels of environmental stewardship, and then building with hemp and the Hempcrete specifically, and as well as the other materials, are possible, and it's something that has a huge impact on what we can do as far as the environmental stewardship to affect things in a positive way. And so, just some real basics. I'm going to give you some overview. That's my view and my look at it. And what I want everyone here to do is kind of plug in what their interest is, whether you're wanting to build a house yourself, whether you like the advocacy that's going along with this new crop of industrial hemp. It's like we just all discovered trees. And then what would we do with that? And so, like, you're sitting here in a presentation about insulation in construction. Pretty exciting stuff to do for a Saturday, you know? And so it's exciting in what it can do because of the impact that it can make. But so my background from the investor side, and then you'll hear from engineers and subcontractors, and then everybody else will come together and have their own unique approach to it. And then we can, talk with us afterwards about how to get engaged on your own journey as well. So going back, this is a 4x8 sheet good here that this hemp stalk is laying out on, just to show you that these are not the bushy plants for cannabinoid production. These are tall for fiber and grain, and then that's their focus. And then they have a stalk that is very, it has a lot of the pores in it, and the air pockets are what make good insulation. And so when you mix it with limestone, then it becomes basically a stone Yeti cooler for your house. And so this is you can see where that fiber is being pulled off and away from the woody part, and you can see how much is fiber and how much is the woody part of the stem. That's called hurd, H-U-R-D. And so that hurd gets broken up into parts and pieces. You can see the tape measure up at the top right to give you a gauge of the size of that. And then that's mixed with lime and water, and these are some restoration applications. You can see how it's put in between the old Fachwerk style timber beams, and as well as a sprayed-in application. Both of those are in Pennsylvania, and restoration projects are projects that are, I think those houses are over 100 years old. And so it's something that can be a very nice use and restoration of existing homes. And then this is new construction. This is the house that's going up in San Antonio. So you see where we've got it formed up. When you mix it up, it is wet, kind of like a consistency of oatmeal cookie dough, but a little bit too much oatmeal. And that gets you a visualization of what that's like going into a form. And then we've made a real small block where you can come up and take a look at it and see how it all comes together. But that's what this is up here in front. That is a little piece of hempcrete. And then if you tried to set it on fire, I could double dog dare you, and you're probably not going to be able to do it. It is near fireproof and a very good insulator. And it's also a permanent carbon sink. So once this comes into play, it's not like, I've done a lot of fix and flip houses. You've got 20, 30-year-old houses that have problems that need to be corrected. This is a true 100-year product that will last that long. And so those are some of the projects and how they come in. You can see how it goes into the wall application. And that's the end of what I'm gonna do. And I'll hand things off to back to Gene. But the main thing to know is that it being a carbon negative scenario, it pulls carbon out of the atmosphere. The agricultural practices of growing it are much more advantageous than other things like growing trees or other crops like cotton that pull things out of the soil. This brings good things back into the soil. So as far as the environmental stewardship on raising the crop, you can grow something in 120 days instead of 15, 20 years. And so it replenishes itself very well. And then it also is something that lasts a long time. And so when it does sequester it, it's a near permanent carbon sink on that. Now, one of the other things is that from an investment point of view, the monetary economic benefit many times is in an adversarial relationship with the environmental stewardship side of things. This is one of those things where both come together and both win, both the environmental stewardship and the financial gain. And so it's something that we're really excited about and connecting with those. And so it's not something, both sides win. And so it's a really good, positive thing. And we're looking forward to sharing those ideas.
How about Kim, you go next?
And that's my contact information up there if you want to snap a shot of that, or I'll be around afterwards. While they're pulling that up, I'll give you a fun statistic. In the house that you saw the pictures of there in San Antonio, we put 20,000 pounds of hemp hurd into the walls. So that's 20,000 pounds of carbon that are sequestered out of the atmosphere. So if you want to do that, multiply that times each and every house that's going in, then if you imagine all the houses that are going in around this area, that's a lot of carbon that can be pulled out of the atmosphere each and every house. And so it's something that's really nice that way, because you can make a big impact real quick.
Well, I'm just going to give an introduction of myself. My name is Kim Croes. I am from Detroit, Michigan, and I started in the hempcrete building industry as a person who ran a painting company. I paint houses, and I found there was a need for just more natural materials because I was constantly affected by the VOCs that I was breathing in. They say zero VOCs on those latex paints, but they're not actually zero VOCs. And there's a lot of just microplastics that are going into our sewer systems and our waterways through those paints. So I wanted to find a new more natural way of just, a system of building. And so I came across Hempcrete, and it just seemed too good to be true, and I kept researching, and I thought that it was just the right fit for what I was looking for. So I pursued it, and oh, that's me. That's so this here is our first hempcrete build that we built last year. This is the first hempcrete house in Michigan. It took a lot of preparation to get to that point to where we could build it. There's a lot of things that, hoops that you have to jump through in the building sector of hemp building in certain areas, because you have to get permits and all these things. So in certain areas it's more difficult than others. Luckily we had a pretty easy go of it. But this was the first. It looks like a barn, but it is actually a house. And what you see in front there is a lift that we used because we did a spray application. So there's multiple ways of installing hempcrete. You can either use a hand cast, just manual labor, and form boards. You can do spray application, like you'll see in further slides. You can use blocks, or you can use precast panels. So that's just another picture of the hemp part itself, so you can kind of see how, like, the size of it. And it's basically, how I explain it is, it just kind of looks like wood chips, basically. So here's a picture of Stephanie, one of my employees, spray applying with Cameron. Actually, is this the video, Jean?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
I wonder if I can we play that?
It might be the next one.
Is it the next one?
Oh, maybe, yeah, try the next one.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is actually the spray application happening in place. So you might notice if you look on the ground, there's some what we call rebound, where because there's so much force with the application of the hempcrete going in with the spray, that some of it will bounce back. And then we can reuse that and put it back into our mix and send it back through the mixer. So that's the e-Reezy system that I use. And so it has a lot of power, and you can go through a lot of material very quickly, which is why I chose to go with spray application over hand casting, which can take many, many weeks to build a house. So that is the mixing process that you can see right there, where we just throw in a bag of hemp, we add a bag of lime, we add water. It's a very, very simple mix. You're not talking about a whole bunch of additives being added into this. This is very, very natural. So here is a whole bunch of precast panels that are drying. You can see that they're just basically just connected so that they're standing upright. Each one of those is an individual panel. And again, that's another system where if you are trying to compete with the construction industry right now, where everything is about speed, getting buildings up as fast as possible, doing something like a precast panel is advantageous because that gives us a better edge in, you know, competing against those other alternatives. The other thing is that there's quite a dry time when it comes to hydraulic lime. That can take 2 months or more depending on your region. So when you're building a house, you have to plan well for that. But if you're doing a precast panel or a block, then that comes already pre-dried and you can install it right after you have your foundation. Here's just another picture of the mix. So you can just see it's a very basic way of going about building. It's you're mixing, you're putting it into place, and then you can immediately take off those form boards wherever you install that hempcrete, you can take those form boards off and you have a solid wall. Here is a plaster. It's a hemp lime plaster. So we actually added hemp into the plaster mix here. And then we trowel it back so that it is smooth. So one of the properties of hempcrete is that it is vapor permeable, which means that your humidity can be regulated in your building. And so then you want to have anything that's going on top of that to also be vapor permeable. Otherwise, you're at risk of trapping the moisture inside of that wall, and then you could have mold. So the biggest thing is knowing the materials that you need to use for this type of build. So it really is a natural building from, you know, the very beginning to the very end, because you're going to be putting also vapor permeable paints on it, which are also natural. So every step of it is healthy for you and for the earth. So here is on the left side, you can see a picture of the rebound. So like I said, with the spray application, every different application has its pluses and minuses. One thing about spray application is that it can get a bit messy, and you do have that rebound coming back at you. But like I said, you can actually reuse that. So you just take it, even if it's dry, you can put a certain amount of your rebound back into the new mix, so it's not wasted. And then on the right side, so one of the other things is that how you want to finish off your house on the exterior. So if you like to have a regular siding and you don't want to have plaster, or maybe you couldn't afford that type of a finish, you can fur out or put added pieces of wood on the exterior and then just add any kind of siding that you wanted to. So if this looks a bit funny to you, or if you're not used to like this stucco look, or you don't like that, then you can have a normal sided house. So that is my information for my company if you want to reach out to me. I am based in Michigan, but I'm happy to reach out or talk to any of you that have questions for me.
Okay, so let's hear from Sergiy Kovalenkov, Dr. Hemp House, who is by far one of the most experienced hemp builders in the world, and we're very lucky to have him here at South by Southwest.
How y'all doing? Thank you for having me. I've been building hemp houses all around the world for over a decade, about 13 years. About 8 years ago, I founded a company called Hempire. I'm a civil engineer from Ukraine, and now we have a business in US as well. What can I tell you guys? We live in a very toxic world, you know. We're doing a lot of spiritual stuff. We go on retreats, we eat healthy, we do yoga, we do all kinds of stuff, but then in the end of the day, if we're coming back into the house full of toxic materials, you completely, how do you say it? Cancel it all out in the end of the day. And I have to say that it goes the same for European buildings. I lived all over the world. I lived in Canada as well for many years. I studied civil engineering there. I know very well about North American housing problems as well as European housing problems. And it's very surprising that no one's talking about it. You know, like we're talking about our, psychological state, we're talking about the food, everything, the mental state, but we're not talking about the toxicity of materials we surround ourselves with. And it is important to understand that right now you will see a bunch of different examples from me. I just want you to grasp an idea around that we can be growing our house in the field next door. The era of importing containers of stuff from China is over. Logistics are crazy expensive. It doesn't work anymore, okay, period. You know, so right now it's an era of sustainable local materials with the low carbon emissions, right? So, how do you click on this thing? I see. It doesn't work.
Oh no, on the side.
No,
The
I'm
arrows.
trying.
Yeah, it's not working.
No, they don't want me. You see, already blocking me from sharing the house. Never mind. Okay, I'm gonna continue talking.
They're fixing it.
Anyways, maybe they'll fix it up. So it is important to understand that the hemp industry has been damaged greatly by the CBD industry. A lot of people went in 4 or 5 years ago into the CBD, completely crushing the hemp industry behind it. A lot of people started growing it, writing out business plans for their investors. Eventually, you know, prices for this cannabinoids dropped like tenfold in 2-3 years, and a lot of farmers pulled out of growing hemp. And growing hemp for fiber is a completely different thing. You know, right now we have actually representatives of different companies processing hemp here in US and Canada. It's crazy. Okay. There's something on. Ah, there we go. That's it. You see, the energy is much stronger. You know. So growing for hemp, for fiber, looks completely different than growing for the big bushy plants that you collect the flower from. So we are after biomass in this case. And I have to tell you, 2.5 acres of hemp can sequester more than 10 tons of carbon dioxide within 3-4 month period of growth. So it's a big carbon sequestration machine. And we harvest this biomass at the end of the season. You see how the stalks are nice, tall and long with a little bit of flower at the top? That's what we want. Then there is a retting process. You gotta dry up the biomass in the field for like about 3-4 weeks, because there are a lot of natural glues that are connecting the fiber to the inner core particle of the plant. You bale it up. I want you to understand where it's coming from, you know, so it's quite clear. And then you bring it into the facilities where you separate the inner core particle of the plant with the outer. So the decortication facility, as I said, there are representatives of 2 companies already here from Canada and US that are already processing today hemp for us to build your own healthy house. So as you can see on the upper right corner, the cross section of the plant, it's very hollow. It's hollow in the middle. So on the outside you have the bast fibers, and on the inside you have the hurd. So these machines are able to separate these 2 particles from each other at a very high pace. Let's say like 3-4 tons an hour of biomass. In the end, we end up with 2 different types of products. So the fiber goes towards paper industry, textile industry, bioplastics industry, while the herd is going towards animal bedding, supercapacitor batteries, construction materials, etc. This is the houses you live in, okay? And me too, don't worry. On the outside, everything might seem nice, you know, just like all of us, you know, but when you dig deep inside the soul of a human being, there's a lot of trash, you know, that you gotta clean out from time to time. So, the same thing's happening here. A lot of people had respiratory diseases during COVID, not because of COVID, but because they were staying in their house constantly, day in and day out, for months sometimes, right? It's a scary situation when you live in a house like this. Because when you come home from work and you lay down in this type of environment for 8 hours, you're not recovering, you're just getting more and more sick. So the problem with us is, you know, we put ourselves at the top of the world, but we are part of the problem. And 30 to 40% low carbon emissions come from construction industry. I was just in Mexico, in Costa Rica. It's crazy what's happening in Tulum. They're building these luxurious complexes out of the worst material possible, out of the concrete block. I was staying in an apartment complex, which is 3 years old. It has already mold on the walls inside the house. We create a lot of trash too. So a lot of trash, very trash generation, unfortunately, and I don't know how to explain to our children what are we doing right now. So, you know, those are the main problems of the construction industry today. Low quality materials, health issues, massive carbon emissions, housing shortage. Pay attention to the duration of your mortgages, you know, 30, 40 years. That's the duration of the material, the lifespan of the materials. We throw it all out and we replace it with the same trash materials again. Someone's making a lot of money. So the solution to all of this, I'm being a very fatalistic person, but I'm a very optimistic fatalist, you know, if there is such a person, you know. So we take the Hempcrete. Those are the particles, let's say, from 1/4 inch to 3/4 of an inch, woody core particles of the hemp stem. We mix it up with the binders. You know, in Hempire we developed our own. We called it fifth element, the missing piece. We mix it up with water, and in 1-2 minutes we have a biomass with which we can insulate any residential building. Right now, you show me in Austin, Texas, we can throw all that junk out, leave the timber frame in, and we're going to replace the insulation material, all the membranes, drywall, OSB with one single material that can be grown next door. That's as simple as that. And we have done it, and I'll show it to you right now. So any surface inside your house, we can insulate with one single material, 100% natural. So you have your timber frame, you have this biomass, you install the formwork around your timber frame. By the way, I don't like very much OSB, but we use it as a formwork on our construction site. You compact it, you mix it up, you compact it in layers of like 4 to 6 inches, and you keep going up until you reach the top of the formwork. And you can replace the formwork, you can remove the formwork immediately, and you install it back on. And in the end, you have this biomass fully covering your timber frame. If you want to, you can leave your timber frame exposed from one side, depending on what type of finish you're going to have. And this material cures by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So your hemp is sequestering carbon while growing up in the field. And this carbonation reaction is also happening when you have a hydrated lime mixed with water. It's exposed to CO2. And it goes back into the limestone. And as you can see, we go in layers, and there is no thermal bridging. We can regulate the thickness of the material. It can be 4-inch thick wall, it could be 15-inch thick wall, it doesn't really matter. And basically, as you can see, the same wall, it turns gray over time. It goes white, you know, as the lime turns into limestone. And then you just apply a stucco on the top of the house. So not even one person in this world will tell you that this house is built out of hemp. As you can see, there are examples of roofs and floors. You can also insulate with Hempcrete inside the house, as you can see it on this picture. We've done even, you know, furniture for cannabis dispensaries in San Diego. You can do whatever you want with it. So I'll just go quickly through the photographs so you understand what's going on. I just want you to, you know, this is like a gold mine for architects and designers. You can create any shape or form with these materials. And you can also insulate the roofs and the floors. We put a much denser, much less denser mix into the roofs of the walls, into the roofs and the floors. And you see we have a lot of happy clients. Sometimes we fight during the construction projects with them, but in the end they love us, you know. So whenever I'm in town, they're happy to treat me to some tea or something. That's a big sign, actually, guys. You know, their gratitude is what driving us forward. So you can go really modern. It can be, doesn't matter, it can be timber shingles on the outside, it can be stucco, you can get really, really creative. Those pictures that are not renders from the internet, those are the pictures only my pictures, you know, so all the projects that we have executed so far. Yeah, like it has been mentioned already, you know, you can add smaller hemp particles into the plasters, and you can get very creative with the texture, and you can add different types of pigments. The sky is the limit, ladies and gentlemen. So it can be a big house, it can be a one-story house, it can be a two-story house, you can insulate with hemp on the 24th floor, it doesn't matter because it's a non-load bearing materials. It's an insulation material, so basically it's an infill and the timber frame carries all the load. It can be a hobbit house. Yeah, we have some crazy people like this in Ukraine, you know, they build out of stone and then they're asking us to insulate it from inside. So you see with the green roof, you know, you can go crazy. It can be a regular house, you know, you don't have to be so crazy. But it's the same things inside, you know. It's not some hobbits, it's real human beings. But what's cool about this is that one time people approached me and said, can you do the dome house out of Hempcrete? And then they started to search on the internet. I'm like, okay, the dome house, you know, who do I ask about it? And it turned out to be that there was none of them existed. So I said, yeah, we can do it. You know, I'm a crazy guy. So, and we did it. And people were extremely, extremely happy living in such houses, you know. And then we went on again and again, kept insulating inside. You see, the dogs are alive, so that's a good sign. I have to say the dome structure is the most energy efficient structure on the planet because you don't have that connections between your ceilings and your walls. Then we start building hemp houses right in the hemp fields, as you pay attention. So this company was growing it for grain, and they said we need a showroom inside our field, you know. So as you can see, in this house, only natural materials have been used. So there are some projects where we have to sign certain waivers for the clients. You know, sometimes children have very sophisticated types of allergies, where we have to guarantee that they're not using any toxic components. They're like zero inside our wall cavities. So this sample's been out there for like 7-8 years, exposed to snow and rain, and it's in perfect shape. Imagine if I would be living in Rockwool, you know, during winter time in Ukraine, or I don't know, in Michigan, or like in Alaska. You know, we'll come back in the springtime and we're all going to be crying about staring at it, you know. So again, right? It doesn't matter what shape or form. We can insulate it with Hempcrete. This is a very good example where we have insulated concrete from inside the building, not the outside, but inside the building. And this is an old industrial post-Soviet building, and we were doing it in very cold temperatures. So we created a very cozy yoga studio just by introducing Hempcrete inside. And all the architects and engineers told me the material was going to rot because you're supposed to insulate the building from the outside, not from the inside. And I said, yeah, that would be the case if the material would be non-vapor permeable. But this material is breathable. So meaning that it can, you know, attract moisture and then release it later on. Yeah, domes like this. It's pretty cool actually to live in a dome. It's kind of funny, you know. We have conversations with our potential clients, and some of them, they want to see the dome. And there are two types of people. First type is like we walk around the house and the rest of the conversation happens outside. And then there's the second type. The majority of people, they want to leave, you know, they sit there for 3-4 hours asking for more coffee and tea, and they continue the conversation because it's really, really cool. These are the buildings. Sometimes we actually just sell the materials, and this house has been completely insulated by their own owners. So it's kind of interesting to see that people can actually build their own homes. And yeah, this crazy stuff that we do, and these people, they do exist, and I love them for their creative ideas of thinking outside the box. By the way, the foundation doesn't matter. It could be a pile foundation, it could be a concrete foundation, it could be all kinds of foundation you want. It could be a strip foundation, you know, so it doesn't really matter. This is a typical IT couple that ordered this house, you know, you can see why. But I still like the domes because this mixture will suck up every molecule of water that there is going to be inside your timber frame, because lime will be really, really hungry for any moisture. So that timber will petrify over time. So whenever people asking me how long, you know, what's the warranty on the material, I said, you know, I asked them, you know, how long are you planning to live for? And the conversation is over there. Like, so we usually give them about 7 years, and that's plenty. And it's very conservative. I think easily over 100 years. If everything done properly, easily. So we built the first house on Lotus in San Diego. That was a crazy project in Balboa Park. I don't want to talk about it, but that was like, we did it in 3 days. It was pure slavery, but it doesn't matter. But we moved it. The guy came to pick it up 5 hours after we finished insulating, and it didn't fall apart. So totally, there are crazy earthquakes all over the world right now these days. And a lot of people asking me how it is acting in high seismic zone, and I always show them these pictures. It's pretty impressive. The project I wanted to tell you about briefly. I can't go on forever with this, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just want, we are rewiring it right now. So as you all know, the war started about 9 years ago, and like last year, it got pretty crazy. Like 5-6 months ago, I was still in Ukraine, and I'll go back there in the summertime. But we are right now building the largest residential complex out of Hempcrete, I don't know, in Ukraine, maybe in the world, I don't know yet. It's also going to be a rehab center for war veterans. So this picture is all taken in September of last year. We organized a seminar. We taught the refugees how to do it. Some people lost their houses, the rockets were flying left and right, I witnessed it all. But we don't stop, we're just crazy, so I said, okay, these people need to live somewhere. So we taught them how to do it. This is the last picture was taken, I think, like a month ago or 2 months ago in Ukraine. So we continue to fundraise the money for this project. As you can see, it's a U-shaped structure, so the last section will be a rehab center for war veterans. So we will be inviting American war veterans to come in, and we're going to teach them how to build hemp houses, and in return they're going to be, counseling our soldiers, our war veterans, how to battle PTSD, because the whole country is full of PTSD right now. This is the information on our fund. There is a website, hemplime.org, and today we're going to have like a fundraiser for this. I thought it was on Monday, but it's today.
It's tonight.
Okay, it's tonight. It doesn't matter. We can have one tonight and on Monday. I'm still here on Monday.
At Friends and Allies Brewery.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So, very important to understand. A couple of years ago, we hosted the first ever Hempcrete workshop for children. These 7-year-old kids, they know how to do it. I'm sure you know how to do it too after you've seen this picture. So sometimes contractors in the US say, "Oh, it's so complicated," and all this. I'm like, "Listen, buddy." And this was actually a very beautiful workshop. And the kids, they have a completely different sense. They ask, "That means I can build my own house?" I'm like, "That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point." And if you grow hemp, if you know how to process it, you can supply the materials to the local market, and we need these processing facilities all around the country. All around the country. There are right now maybe 10 of them in the US. We need 5 in every state, so we're talking about 250, and this is exactly what I'm doing right now, going around the world, and we are right now launching entire programs where, we have the farming piece, we have the processing piece, and post-production, because there's going to be a lot of equipment going to be installed to create prefabricated panels. We're working on that right now. So there's going to be a facility that's going to be processing hemp and creating insulation panels that will be easy for contractors to install and quickly. Very important to understand that Hempcrete regulates humidity. So hemplime, Hempcrete, whatever you want to call it, it has a unique ability to regulate humidity inside the house. So you can see on this graph, the green line represents the fluctuation of relative humidity. No matter where you go around the world, you're going to have your temperature and humidity changing every single day, even in Austin, Texas. Even though it was kind of chilly last night. Yeah. And the blue line, is this the pointer? Yeah. You see, it's jumping up and down, and the blue line represents the relative humidity inside the house. And that's what Hempcrete does. And that reflects on your electricity bill every single month, all year round. The same happens with the temperature. You see going up and down, and that's what happens inside the house. It's happening naturally without AC on. It doesn't mean that you don't have to install your ventilation system. Your ventilation system has to be installed, but you're going to be spending a fraction of money maintaining that house. It's all about maintenance. It's all about maintaining certain temperature and relative humidity inside the house. So it's not even about temperature, it's more about relative humidity. You're feeling cold, especially women, sometimes you get cold for no reason, but because of the relative humidity, it's jumping up. On a humid November night, you want to put some blanket on your, you know, you put in some crazy stuff, and then inside the Hempcrete house, you need to put less of that stuff on. And why is this happening? This is a Hempcrete under microscope. So each one of these particles has thousands and thousands of air pockets. So in the end, you have micro and macro porous structure inside your wall system. If you don't close it in with drywall and this terrible acrylic paints, if you let the vapor permeable materials cover up that Hempcrete wall, like lime plasters, clay plasters, timber, you know, the natural stuff, then you're going to be all right. This is also a very important slide. This is from 1985. You see this optimal zone is between 40 and 60% relative humidity. If the air is too dry in your house, or if it's too wet, you're asking for trouble. Bacteria, virus, fungi, respiratory infection, you see how dry it gets sometimes in winter. Hempcrete keeps it within 50 to 60% relative humidity, automatically. You need to help it maintain this type of numbers, but it will definitely prolong your life. In terms of frost resistance, we leave our houses exposed to really rough conditions, and they're still standing still when we come back in the springtime to finish them off. So there is some technical data, and whoever's interested, I'll share this presentation. If it doesn't, you know, I'll be more than happy to do that. So it doesn't set on fire. It's also very important. We have a business where we're producing our binder in California. There's a big problem with fire. We've invited a big fire department truck. They tried to burn it with a torch that was 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. They burned only through 3/4 of an inch of the material. So it's non-flame, it doesn't support fire. It's pest resistant because of high content of lime. You won't see termites in there if you fully surround the timber frame with Hempcrete. And I can go on and on and on and on.
How about questions?
Yeah, we're gonna, most of the questions will be, I know what are the questions will be. That's why I'm trying to cover it up for you. Very important slide right here. The pH stuff. I used to hate chemistry in high school, but you know, the creator brought me back to life. So, highly acidic is 0, highly alkaline is 14. You see 5.8 cancer cells begin to form. So if you have an acidic pH inside your house, you're creating a perfect environment for the mold to evolve. Mold will evolve only in acidic environment. And that's why we have so much cancer in post-Soviet countries. We've been living in concrete. Concrete, no air is moving through concrete, unfortunately, right? So you have to install sophisticated ventilation system, there were none. And the problem with that is exactly this is the reason, right? So the lime that we use, it has an extremely high pH. It's highly alkaline material, 12.4 out of 14 possible. So you're surrounding yourself with tons of high pH product, which is good. You'll never have a mold inside your house. And last but not least is the carbon footprint inside the house. So as I have explained to you earlier, 2.5 acres, 1 hectare of hemp sequesters from 10 to 20 tons of carbon dioxide during growth period. And those numbers are very conservative. It turns out to be there is a lot of carbon sequestration happening below the ground as well. And I've been told this at the Hemp and Cannabis Conference in UN headquarters last year in New York. It's kind of funny because UN banned hemp and they said it's highly crazy drug, and now we're hosting conferences there in Manhattan, That's all you need to know about this world. So, and there was a delegation from Argentina. They said, we've done research and we're thinking and we have proof that there is a lot more carbon actually being sequestered by the root system underground, which we have not even tapped into that. So it's a carbon negative material. So whenever people say, how do we go with this carbon zero and all this stuff, we're already doing this. Each one of the Hempcrete houses that has been built over the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years. It's sequestering carbon right now. So this process happens for decades, if not centuries. The whole Roman Empire, the whole Italy has been built with limestone. And it's just getting stronger and stronger over years. This is, words, it doesn't matter. So, in the end, I just want you to understand that it is possible, that we're already doing this. We need your support. We founded, in 2019, we founded US Hemp Building Association. Ray now is the current president. I had to step down from the director of education. I was on board of directors, but when the war started, I just couldn't do it anymore. It was too much. Now we're bringing it into the building codes of the United States. Now there is a mention of hempcrete in the residential building codes. So now architects can actually, the clients and architects can refer to hempcrete in the building codes. So sooner or later, whether you like it or not, there's going to be a hemp revolution here, and I am inviting you to join it because it's a very interesting plant. It's a sacred plant. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can create thousands of different products. And if you have any questions, please ask. Thank you.
Matt? Hi, my name is Elaine Listener. I feel reprogrammed. Came here to speak about health, but this is health in another form. My family company is a production builder, sell about a house a week. Used to be a house a day before the crash. And my question, I think for the gentleman on the right, but if somebody else wants to chime in, is how much of this pencils already? What do I need to tell my father and my brother to convince them? And if none of it pencils, in their view, are there examples of incentives in certain places that make it pencil? Just FYI, I'm from California, but the construction is in Reno, outside of Reno, Nevada, and just typical suburban entry-level housing, wood, stucco, single, 2 stories.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it talks about the pathway to production. So we're not there yet, but we will get there, and we'll get there at a fairly rapid rate. I would say over the next 1 to 3 years, 5 for sure, to where, because it just became legal to cultivate and grow in 2018, a little bit before that in 14 with the Farm Bill for research, but really in 2018 to where it could be grown on a production level. And so now the supply chains are maturing. This time last year, you couldn't really buy selectively a lot of herd for builder grade projects. And so, that's the grade of the herd where the processors are taking enough of the dust out to where it doesn't mess up the mix, enough of the fiber out where it doesn't mess up the mix, and getting it to the right size. Like the pneumatically conveyed system that Kim was talking about is a little bit more particular than the particle size on the cast and place by hand. And so it does pencil, and it's competitive. And then the custom home market is really embracing that right now. And so there's several really nice one-off projects. And so we're seeing those become more and more prevalent. And so the amount that is being cultivated and grown in the US is going to increase a lot. Now, the herd part of the plant that is used for building materials for hempcrete is quite often a byproduct. So if you grow it for grain or fiber, now you've got a mountain of herd to figure out something to do with. It could be for cardboard panels, for textiles or whatnot, but this is sometimes a byproduct. Now in the US, we're still in a lot of construction mode, and so the market here has been pulling on the herd, and now there's a lot of fiber that needs to find a home. And so to answer your question about the penciling, it is very competitive. I would say within 10-20%, depending on how your architecture goes. But that is another one of the delights about it architecturally, is you can have round walls, curved walls, straight walls, whatever, your imagination is your only limitation on that. And so it's within that 10 to 20% mark of the cost. And then my gut is that within 30 years, it will compete and be less of a cost at a premium product. And when you have a premium product that costs less, that's when you win. And so that's what we're And there's a lot of good cooks in the kitchen that are coming up with different scenarios for prefabrication for blocks and panels and things like that. So it's going low tech and then transitioning up into something that's a little bit higher tech, and there's a lot of innovation underway. So it's a great question.
One more thing I want to add. You have to, I know construction is all about money. I know, like, wherever you go, like, how much does it cost? And, well, it doesn't matter whether it's Ukraine, Mexico, US. You can, you know, I see a big opportunity with the carbon credit system introduced in place, where the government incentivizes companies to go after all natural biodegradable solution. I have to say that the industry is growing right now. 5-7 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about decortication facilities in US. Now we have them. Now we produce, you know, you're in Nevada, we produce our binder like, you know, a few hours away, already in LA. Gentlemen right here, they are growing hemp in Alberta, Canada. So it's happening already. Yes, you know, it's a little bit of a drive for material supply, you know, supply chain, but it's happening in different states. And before this, I was in Hawaii, like in November, and I found out that they import every single screw and every single sheet of drywall. This is criminal, absolutely criminal. If a container comes from Asia, it has to touch base in California and swim halfway across the Pacific Ocean to get there. Someone's making a lot of money, you know, and then now we're working on setting up a facility there. And it's going to bring a lot of joy to the local market, finding out, you know, so that's going to be very competitive in price, you know. As a lot of materials will grow up in prices, this material will go down in price. If you're going to be growing it next door, you know, there are companies right now growing hemp in Texas. That's it, you know, and you know, it's coming. Whether you like it or not, I have to tell you to the building industry guys, you know.
And I've got one other note about that I like to share quite often, is that from what I know about development, where you're developing the whole subdivision or something like that, the developer dictates the development. And then the developer is only going to create something that a builder will buy. Now, sometimes builders are also developers, but they're also beholden to what the market will buy. And if the market wants a swimming pool and tennis courts, guess what's developed? Swimming pool and tennis courts. If the market wants chickens in a farmer's market and houses built with sustainable materials, guess what is going to be developed? So one of the big things that we all collectively have to do is just consistently want, and then let the market provide what we want. We're Americans, we know how to do that. Just want something and get it out there. And so the cool thing is to want the right things for the right reasons. And going back to the point that I made earlier, is they're not adversarial interests. And that's one thing that's really refreshing and unifying. And so it can be something that tells a story for a development that has a nice impact as well.
And how about locking up carbon for 80, 100 years in a block that you manufacture? That's going to be the game changer.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for all of your work. My name is Brianna. I founded a hemp-based bath towel company, and so we sell here in the US and around the world. And one of the biggest issues we have is access to seed and being able to one day manufacture our own product. So China pretty much owns that infrastructure. Do y'all have that same issue, and how do you decentralize access to seed so people can start to grow locally?
Yeah, it's just like if these were any type of other plant that's grown from seed and planted every year. And so, yeah, a lot of the genetics are coming from China. There's some that are coming from Australia, and they're coming in, and then once they're grown here, and then those tests are done in the different climate zones to see what goes well, then a lot of those circumstances, then the farmer can actually harvest for seed as well as harvest for crop, and then that's taking place. And so that's when I said those 1 to 3 years. If you want to answer a question in the agronomy of things, and it's like, hey, will this work well here? Well, that question takes a year to answer. And so you're not going to plant 1,000 acres to answer that question. You're going to plant 20 or 100, and then on you go. And so that's why these things are going to take a few years, but became legal to cultivate in 2018. There's already a lot of that that's been done, and so we're about to hockey stick up as far as the amount of fiber and grain herd that's being grown in the U.S. So
We have
that's
time for
exciting.
one more quick question, and then we gotta go, but thank you so much.
One more.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Irina Martinez. I'm working with Sprouting Shelters. That's my company. We're doing sustainable building materials out of mycelium. So much
Fun.
waste for those who don't know. But my question for you is like we're very early on, and we're trying to figure out like how to really get funding for this and move forward in the direction because and I know all of y'all started somewhere, and I just wanted to hear your advice for a young entrepreneur like myself.
The mycelium stuff is fun. That's way cool.
Yeah.
And so, the thing to do is, like, the houses that I'm building are an investment scenario. So any time where I can plug the puzzle pieces together to where 1 + 1 = 3, you'd buy that math equation, and that's the arena that I'm in. So to where all of the puzzle pieces clearly come together, to where a profitable scenario exists, and then just put a bow on top, and then there you go. And so just making a nice deliverable financial unit to where if somebody who's like, well, I'm not going to go build a house, I'm happy with my house and all that, but I do want to support this with my investment, my impact-oriented investing, that's a very good opportunity, and that's one of the spaces where we exist.
Also, the Inflation Reduction Act, there is $300 billion going into conservation-style construction. So, and the GSA, the government's landlord, the federal government's landlord, has a green proving ground. They are saying, if you have an innovation, a green innovation for building materials, pitch it to us to use in the federal government's building stock, and we will help you get off the ground. So I would say, look into that stuff, Inflation Reduction Act stuff. Also the Carbon Leadership Forum, you probably already know about them, but they often are able to find a lot of grants and stuff like that. Anyway, thank you so much.
I just want to say
yes.
something. I have one advice for you. Patience. Patience. Every night you go to sleep, because it takes time. Construction industry is one of the most conservative, it's like a dinosaur, honestly, it's crazy. There are companies that they're making millions a day, mineral company, mineral waste, when they're making lime or cement, and they're very slow to react. And things are changing around the world, and you have to be patient for it to change. Apply it to as many grant programs as possible, talk about it non-stop, like you're a crazy person, you see, I'm a crazy person, so, now we have a lot more in the audience. Before it was 5 people, when I started to talk about it. But you have to just keep going and maybe find a better use. Sometimes you think a construction product, maybe not. Maybe it's an acoustic panel. Maybe it's, you never know, something different. And regarding the seeds, there are different seeds available, right? The market just opened up, so there are some seeds from Europe, there are some seeds from China. Some seeds work on different latitudes, some Asian varieties work in the Florida latitude. Some European varieties work in Washington State and Michigan. The market is evolving. More and more farmers are starting to grow hemp, but it's up to the government to create subsidies so people don't risk their own money. Government needs to help out to test plots and see what's happening, because sometimes, hemp is unforgiving. It's crazy. It's not easy at all. People give up on it after 2 or 3 years of cultivating because they lost money. And I just met a guy who's been there for more than 25 years. We've been sitting in Thailand with him and saying, I've been losing money for 25 years. Now we're doing okay, I see a lot of pain in his face. So that's what it takes. You gotta have that drive and passion. It's a beautiful plant, but it's you have to learn how to grow it, how to process it and use it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.